Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am here with a trope recommendation video of something that I really love to read when it's handled well and with care and attention and just sensitivity, and that is BDSM romance. Now, I'm not talking about your 50 Shades Grey. I'm talking about the good stuff, and no shame on you if you enjoy that. It was good for what it was, but these books that I read, I just think do a much better job of showing the reality of a dom-sub relationship and using more communication. Some are done with like healing. So these are some of my favorite BDSM romances, and I was going through my list and I've read a lot of BDSM. So I just narrowed it down to, I think 10. I think I have 10. But let's go ahead and dive into some fun and emotional and spicy BDSM romances. Okay guys, so if you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you will be hitting that subscribe button, watch the rest of my content, set the reminders, do all of that. I would really appreciate the support. I do weekly wrap-ups, end of the month wrap-ups, trope recs, vlogs, all of that. So thank you so much. And if you're returning, I appreciate you for sticking with me. Okay. So let's kick it off with the OG, okay? This is my favorite author and one of my favorite BDSM romances. And of course, I'm going to show off this beautiful edition, which is Dark Notes by Pam Godwin. This book, I think, was like maybe the first book I read by Pam Godwin. I did do a vlog reading this and Sea of Ruin. If you're interested, I'll put it up here where I've vlogged everything. Of course, there is spoilers. I always have spoilers in my vlogs, just so you know. But I remember crying reading this. I remember crying reading Sea of Ruin. So it's a thing. Pam Godwin is my queen, okay? But the reason I want to bring this up right off the bat is this really was just such a deep, yes, it is dark. It has a lot of dark, triggering content. That's what Pam writes, but she doesn't do it for shock value. It's to drive the story, to drive the characters. It helps build, that suspense. It helps build their journey, their whole arc. And she just does it so amazingly. And this one really has BDSM as like a form of healing to a woman that really had no agency, no independence. She was really beat down. So in this we have Ivory, and she is a teen. So this is an age gap. It's taboo. It's an age gap between her and her music teacher. So I'm just going to warn you right off the bat, if you don't like that, you're definitely not going to like this because it goes to places, okay? So she actually lost her father. Her father was a really talented pianist, and he left his money to go to her to be able to go to this special school. And her mother and her brother are very bitter and abusive to her because of that. And the trauma that she goes through in this book is a lot, because she actually is selling herself in this book to make ends meet for her family, to keep the electricity on, to have food. They're not really responsible, and she's forced to do that. And her brother's best friend is assaulting her. So it is brutal. I just want to warn you, it's on page and it's very devastating. So Ivory is a very broken girl. She's going through so much, and she gets a new teacher named Emmerich. He's this star, piano player. He's just amazing. And there's some controversy of why did he have to leave his previous place and all this stuff. They think he might have had a BDSM relationship with one of his other teachers, and there was a lot of drama about him. But he comes and he sees Ivory. He sees Ivory, and he kind of notices what's going on, and he is not happy and wants to help her. And so he kind of steps in, and he's working with her one-on-one, and he's trying to get her to stop being in this dangerous situation she's in. But he is very drawn to her. He wants her, and he is a dom. He does BDSM. And so eventually they cross those lines into the BDSM territory. And what is beautiful about this is that it is the first time that Ivory really has a voice, because even though she's the submissive, she has most of the power. You know, she can say her safe word. She can stop it like that. And it's the first time she really sees her power and that she has agency and self-worth. And he really helps her like to be a better pianist, and he's just really helping her. And so they have this really intense, beautiful relationship, and it all builds off of this amazing BDSM dynamic between them. And it's just really beautiful. Again, it is dark. I will warn you right off the bat, because it had one of my triggers, and it was like animal cruelty in this, and like hurting an animal. So just be prepared, because that does happen in this, and I was bawling. So I just want to warn you, just to make sure you're aware, because that was a lot for me. But this is one of my favorite Pam Godwin books. It's so good. And if you want to dive into a darker romance that has some triggering content, but that is like BDSM for healing, I think this one is the one to do. Okay, this is perfect. Okay, so on to an author that I think I have her twice on this list, because she really does some amazing BDSM erotic romances, and that is Clio Evans. The first one I'm going to bring up is Mine. This one was really fun because it was kind of an older heroine and a younger guy. Pepper is the CEO of a record company, and she had created it with her friend and ex-husband, and she was completely devoted to her company, and then her marriage fell apart, and so she's looking for a new artist, and she quickly finds like a star in Salt. And Salt is this really sexy tattooed artist. He also does like kind of thirst traps with like a mask on like TikTok and stuff, but he is a really talented artist. And basically, you know, she has like a run-in with him, and he sees like at the coffee shop, and she's like arguing with her ex-husband, and he gets in his like dom persona and was like, hang up the phone. Like, because he didn't like the way the husband was treating her and all of that. And he's like, gets in there. So they end up, you know, when she sees him performing live and everything, she's really into it. And he immediately asks her to like go home with him. And he shows her like the BDSM lifestyle. And so they start to explore BDSM. And, you know, Pepper is worried about their age difference and kind of trying to keep their relationship secret because he's going to be one of her artists. So that would like look really bad. But it was just really good. I was kind of just expecting some spicy times, but it was actually more emotional than I thought it would be. And it was very spicy. I loved their dom sub dynamic. She really like takes the time to really have the characters, and you'll see this in the other book, explore and talk through their kinks, their hard limits, what they're okay with. So it really does the dom sub in a very safe and responsible way. And I love seeing that like in books. I love seeing that representation. So absolutely loved that one. If you're looking for like a reverse age gap, it's fun. Okay, the next one that I want to bring up, there's a lot of Rina Kents that I could pick from, but I decided to do this one because this one was one of my favorites from her not newest series, but the Legacy of God series, and that is God of Pain. This is Creighton's romance. Creighton is actually the son of one of my favorites, and that is Aiden. and Aiden King, and he's like one of my favorite heroes. So this is his romance, and he has a pretty dark kink. He considers himself a sadist, and he gets off on inflicting pain. So like that's the full like sadist thing in him. So he like kind of only goes to like a sex club so he can do that to people that are into it, you know? So it's not like an evil thing. It's people get off on that. So there is a girl, Anika, and she has actually been really pursuing him. She's really into him, and he just like does not care. And he just doesn't want anything to do with her. He's very quiet and broody and kind of in his head. He had a really difficult childhood. You know, he was actually adopted by Aiden, and Elsa, I think was her name. Anyways, so he saw some bad stuff with his like mother and stuff. So he eventually kind of, she catches his eye basically because she put herself in his path and was like really curious about his kinks. And then he became obsessed with her. In typical Rina Kent fashion, he became obsessed, and he's like, okay, well, now you have me interested in you, and we're going to go all in on this. So she kind of freaks out when she learns how much of a sadist he is and how much he gets off on pain. But she ends up really enjoying it. So they have like a BDSM dynamic of him, you know, doing some bondage, some bad spanking, some punishments, and it's really hot. Like I love this one so much. I love Cray, and they were just really, it's a good time. If you haven't read this series, it's fantastic. I love this series so much. And you know, it's second generation, so if you've read the parents, it's even better, but I really love this. If you're not aware, I vlogged Rina Kent's entire blacklist. So I have a vlog playlist. If you want to check it out, I'll put it here as well. So you can check out all my vlogs on every Rina Kent book I've read. Okay, another Pam Godwin that I want to bring up. I love Pam Godwin. Sorry, I always usually have a couple of hers on lists, but this is Vanquish, and this is the second book in the Deliver series. And you know, Van is a very troubling kind of hero, anti-hero. He's a villain. But you actually somehow feel for him. Now, the Deliver series is very dark. In the first book, it introduced us to Van and his partner, and they are actually responsible. It's part of sex trafficking, and his job is their job is to like kidnap people and train them for their future like owner. So when I say this is dark, it's really dark. So in that first book, you see how crazy Van is. He's pretty out there. You know, he's like got a weird doll collection that's kind of creepy. He's very obsessed with his previous partner. Obviously, she has found love and has moved away from him. And in this, we get Van's like kind of redemption. I don't know how Pam does it because she takes, you know, villains and makes you feel for them and want their HEA. It's just something she is so good at. So in this, Van is actually stalking his previous partner, Liv, and her boyfriend. So there's a kind of looks like abandoned house next to them. Really, it's not abandoned. Amber is living there, but she has a lot of mental health issues. She, you know, has, let me see if I wrote them all down. I don't know if I did here. But so she has agoraphobia, so she never leaves her house. She has major agoraphobia. She was previously like a model, like also like beauty queen. So she's gorgeous, but she put a lot of pressure on her. She has OCD, body dysmorphia issues, anxiety, bulimia, and depression. So, I mean, this girl has a lot of issues. So she's actually in that house. And so when Van comes across her, he kind of is pissed, but then he sees all her issues and becomes obsessed. And he decides he's going to help her in his way. And he's going to use BDSM to kind of heal her and get her over all her mental health issues. Now, I don't recommend that. I don't recommend that. That's not a safe way to deal with mental health. But this is Van. He's crazy, he's unhinged, and he decides to like forcibly take her out of her home and go with him. And it does continue on with the sex trafficking storyline and other stuff going on here. But I just really, really loved this one. I think it's like my favorite in the series so far. I haven't finished it yet. I need to. But I love Van. And you know, you continue to see him in the series too. And I just love his character arc and like what he's done. Okay, so I was going to bring up Praise by Sara Cate because I really love that one that has some fun, like good, you know, dom sub type of stuff. And I love Praise, but I wanted to bring up one that like not everybody brings up on these lists, you know, and I wanted to bring up Mercy by Sara Cate, which is actually that character's son, and he finally gets his kind of redemption because in Praise it's her boyfriend's ex-boyfriend's dad, and her boyfriend was kind of an idiot, you know, and in this we get Beau's kind of redemption in this storyline. So Beau is the son of the hero from Praise, and he actually runs that Salacious Players Club, and he has like that app which can help you discover your kinks and get matched with other people, and he just really is like embarrassed by this, doesn't support it, but his friends end up getting him to take the quiz, and so he just takes it to just see whatever, and he actually is surprised where he is labeled as a submissive brat. And he's always been pretty dominant in his sexual relationships. And so he's like, this is bullshit, you know? But he ends up getting paired with a female dominant. And that's going to be his dad's best friend. And Maggie actually, you know, has never really done the kink. She helped run this and create this company. And so she decided to finally do it. And she comes out as a dominant, which she doesn't see like that she would be that way. But she ends up kind of meeting with Beau. And when she realizes it's her like best friend's son, she's like horrified, but they try it out and they really enjoy it. And he likes being a little brat, and she gets to be the dominant and punish him. And I just loved this. It was my favorite in the series. I really loved how Beau really turned around. He had a lot of self-hatred and like shame about who he was, and he felt really aimless and kind of bratty. And then with this dynamic, it helped him really grow up and become a better man. And I just had such a good time with this one. It's been forever since I read it, so I'm sorry if I'm being kind of vague, but it's a great one. If you want like a female dominant, it's fun. Okay, so I want to bring up a fan fiction, and this is one of my favorite fan fictions I've ever read. This is Contradictions by Ambperstand, and this is a Draco and Hermione, and this is heavily BDSM. I would say that if you want an intro to what BDSM is, like if it's handled responsibly, talking about kinks, talking about hard limits, your safety words, all of that, and being like really a lot of discussions and safety in BDSM, I would recommend this because it really dives into all those things. And I think it's the perfect introduction to like learning what the real BDSM kind of dynamic is. Sorry, I'm like losing my voice. Hold on. Sorry, I filmed a long video before this, so like my voice is kind of like losing it, and the allergies have been crazy this last couple of days. But anyways, this is a BDSM relationship between Draco and Hermione. She really had trouble getting like off, and kind of, you know, Hermione is a control freak, and so like letting that control go, she did a lot of research and saw that BDSM might be the best way for her. And so she ended up doing it through like this company type of thing, and she ends up getting matched with Draco, and she freaks out at first and like panics and like leaves before, like, because they were doing it with her blindfolded, you know, because she had a mask too to hide who she was, but then it went away when she got off. And so he's like, oh my God, this is Hermione. But she leaves before he could do aftercare, and he was like really upset by that. So he ends up going to her and being like, we need to do the aftercare. It's extremely important. That's one of my favorite things about BDSM is when there's really good aftercare scenes, because that's just as important. When you get into subspace, you need the aftercare to like bring you back down and make you feel, you know, safe. So I really love those. But basically Draco and Hermione come to an agreement to kind of explore this relationship, to do this dynamic together. And it's very spicy. It's a perfect introduction to BDSM. And then of course they end up falling in love with each other. So I love it. It's one of my favorite fanfics I've ever read. So I would definitely recommend that if you haven't picked it up, or if you want to try an intro to BDSM. Okay, so I had to put a Jagger Cole in here. Jagger Cole has a lot of BDSM, a lot of it. But I brought up one of his newer series, and this is Emperor of Lust. This is like one of my favorite series of his. I think I really enjoyed this a lot more than some of the other ones. And it was really good. So this one is about Damian Nikolaev, and he is actually kind of going to be the head of the Bratva at one point. And Hana Mori, and she is part of the Yakuza. Her family is Yakuza. This series follows more of Yakuza, and I really liked that because I don't get a ton of Yakuza mafia. So I really like that. Okay, sorry, my voice. Okay, so Hana Mori is actually the daughter of the Yakuza, sister to like the guy that's like the head of the Yakuza right now. And she's like the good daughter, but she's actually hiding a really big secret. And Damien comes across this and finds out. And so he decides to blackmail her. And he wants like to kind of force her into a fake engagement with him for mafia reasons. And he kind of becomes obsessed with her too. And he is very into BDSM. So he basically starts to do like all the kinky BDSM stuff with her. So she really enjoys it when he starts tying her up. He's really into shibari. And if you don't know what that is, it's where they like tie up your body and constricting things all over. It's really cool looking too when you look up like pictures of it. It's very interesting, but it's something you have to learn how to do and be responsible and be trained into doing shibari. So they do a lot of that together. But I just really love this because he was one of my favorite heroes out of the series, and he was very dominant and possessive over her. And as they start exploring this like BDSM kink together, they really fall for each other. And there's a lot of exciting stuff going on in this with the mafia politics. Jagger Cole does really good with the mafia plot lines, and like the third act suspense is always really exciting. So I really enjoyed this one. It is a really good addition to that series, and I think you could definitely pick that one up as a standalone if you want to. Okay, so the other Clio Evans that I want to bring up is a brand new release. I think it'll come out by the time I post this video. I think it's releasing on the 11th of November. So it's probably already going to be out by the time I post this. And that is Cactus Heart. It's the first book in her Why Not series. It's a small town in Texas called Why Not. And this is an MMF BDSM relationship. Again, she really does a lot of work with them, having a lot of open conversations, especially because it's a poly relationship. I liked how they talked more about their dynamic, their kinks, their hard limits, all that kind of stuff is discussed. This is between Avery, Mateo, and Levi. And Avery is an artist. She's like a free spirit, and she has a couple older brothers that are way too overprotective of her, making it really hard for her to date. Mateo is one of her brother's best friends, and he is a sexy firefighter, and they've been really close friends, but mutually pining after each other. And then Levi is one of her brother's other friends that comes back to town. He is a pro hockey player, but he really isn't happy in the game anymore. His body is like falling apart. And so he's just really struggling. So he just kind of leaves and goes to the small town to kind of get away. And so once they all kind of interact, seeing Levi kind of flirt with Avery, Mateo realizes he wants to finally make a move. But Mateo's also really into Levi. So they decide to kind of explore a relationship together. They have to have a secret relationship because her brothers would not be okay with it. And they explore their BDSM kinky interests. Now, Levi is a switch, so he is usually dominant, but he actually really likes Mateo being dominant with him. And then he can be dominant with Avery. And so there's a lot of kinky good times, toys, outfits, DP, bondage, spanking, ball gags. Like there's a lot. Okay. But I loved it. It was very cute, and it's a good little small town poly BDSM romance for you. Okay, so I'm going to end this video with one that's very light in the BDSM, but you don't really see it in historical romance enough, and that is Wicked Intentions by Elizabeth Hoyt. You know, I'm actually just now reading the Maiden Lane series, so I am absolutely loving this. This one blew me away. I loved it. Check out that step back here. This is about Lord Care and let me see, what was her name? Temperance. Okay. So I had to remember her name because this is the first book in the series. And Temperance actually runs a school for foundling children with her brother, Winter. And she's mostly focused on that and rescuing kids and taking care of them. And she comes across Lord Care, and he's kind of beating a guy in the street. One of his mistresses was actually brutally murdered, like very violently. And so he's actually searching St. Giles, investigating, trying to find out what happened to her. But he is a lord. He's high up in society. St. Giles is kind of like a not great area, and they don't really trust him. So he ends up going to Temperance to ask her to help him investigate and look for the information and get people to talk. And then he would help her by getting money for their school because they're really struggling. They need a new like financier and everything. And this is kind of their romance. So the reason I'm bringing this up on the BDSM is he had mistresses for a very specific reason. He is very into BDSM. He does not like being touched. So he really is into like bondage and all of that. And so that's like, everybody kind of thinks of him as like crazy and too like perverted because he likes to do that, which is like very tame by the other stuff that I was just bringing up in this video. But he does do some bondage, and it was really hot, and I loved it. So I wanted to bring up a historical romance so you could get a little BDSM in your romance from historical, because historical romance needs more attention and love too. But anyways, my voice is going. Those are all my BDSM favorites that I wanted to give you in this video. I'm sure another video will come later because I have a ton. But I love BDSM and romance, especially when it's handled with care and sensitivity. So wanted to give a shout out to these books. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.